This week, we'll start introducing to you about the ideas of loops. So there are two kinds of loops in Java, for loops and also while loops. So they are semantically equivalent, but you may just want to use one in certain scenarios and use the other in other scenarios, which I will show you. In the first half of this week, I'm going to show to you how to use loops in the context of console application, just to get you familiar with the syntax, and also we can do a little bit of tracing in the debugger and also on the paper. And in the second half, we're going to use the loops in the scenario that you should be familiar with for your labs and also programming test number 1. So for both scenarios, we're going to use the loops in the context of utility methods. That's something we'll get you to exercise on. Before I start the topics, I would like to show to you, for those of you who might be interested, as usual, to do some extra practice, I'll point to you the tutorial videos you can watch for extra exploration. All right, so now you can take a look at the Java tutorial for Winter 19, right? We've been referencing this tutorial video to you throughout the semester so far. Last week, I pointed to you, you can watch the tutorial videos for nested if statements. Hopefully, some of you actually got a chance to explore that. And for this week, since we started to talk about iterations, I would suggest these will be the 5 videos you can tend to watch. So that'll be number 20 to number 24. You can see from Winter 19, students were introduced about the debugger a little bit later than you guys actually in the semester. So I would say you guys actually were in some way were exposed to a better structure for the programming lesson. So even though you already know about the debugger idea, you can still watch the video. Maybe you can skip that part, but just pay attention to how the loops are actually used for the various purposes, and also how we do tracing in those videos. Okay, I'll leave that extra practice to you if you're interested. All right, so let me now go back to our Eclipse for this week. Let's now first of all create our new Java projects. Okay, we'll simply go to you can simply right click on your package explorer over here, and then you can say new and then Java projects. Okay, and then let's type a name. Let's be consistent. It's going to be week underscore 04, and then we're going to say next. And then just make sure everything is good. Okay, we don't need to adjust anything. We can say finish. And don't forget, you don't really have to create the model-info.java file. It's really important to really pay attention to it, because if you create it, you might just run into trouble about packages. Especially, for example, you might run into trouble when you use JUnit test. So again, click on don't create. Okay, if you happen to not follow this, in that case, you may just want to delete the Java projects and then do it again. All right, as I showed you last time. All right, so let's now create our first application class this week. Oh, again, before that, let's still set up our normal structure. We need 3 packages. So new package model. We'll do model in the second half of this week, but for the first half, we're going to focus on console apps only. Okay, and then we're going to do console apps and also JUnit test, which will be testing the class in the model, which we'll also do in the second half. Okay, let's just put it down first. All right, so these are the 3 packages, and let's now right click on your console apps package, and let's now create the first class. And let's now do some calculation for assessments, maybe for your assignments. And let's now create a new class, and then we'll simply say, let's say grade calculator app. We can say grade calculation app, doesn't matter. Let me just say grade calculator app. And then I'm going to create a new method over here because we're doing a console application. And you know what? Let me also say number 1. So version number 1, we're going to use a for loop to actually do the calculation with a particular flavor that actually fits into the normal application scenario for the for loop. And then for number 2, we're going to use a while loop. Okay, we'll do one at a time. Let's say finish. All right, let's now maximize the code over here. And let's do the usual stuff. We got to declare the scanner and also make sure we close it at the end, right? Scanner, control or command space. Let's make sure include scanner from Java that you tell. And then input is new scanner system.in, right? We're going to read from the keyboard. And at this point, input just ready, just standing by to read some input value from the user. And then we're gonna say input close over here at the end, right? So these are just the necessary stuff that we have done for weeks already. All right, let's say the following. We can document this class a little bit to say the following. So what we want to do is we want to calculate the weighted sum. Calculate the weighted sum of, let's now, usually for for loop, you have a fixed number of calculations. You know exactly how many calculations you will need. Okay, so let's say 5 assignments, each with different weights. Each may come with a different weight. For example, okay. For example, over here, let's say we got assignments. Assignment 1, for example, let's say maybe assignment 1 is 20%, and assignment 2 is maybe 40%, right? They do not have to add up to be 100%. Let's say, okay, maybe there are other components for the course which we don't worry. Okay, we only worry about assignments. Okay, let me just make sure I spell correctly. All right, let's say assignment 1 20% has how many marks do we have? Let's say 50 marks. Let's just make a simple assumption about the total marks is always 100. Okay, has maybe 70 marks. Okay, and then the weighted sum will be, so assignment 1, it's 50 marks, so we'll simply say 50 multiplied by, and then the percentage, which will be 20%, so that'll be 0.2. Okay, you can think about 0.2 comes from the percentage value, which is 20 divided by 100, right? That'll give you that'll give you 0.2, correct? All right, and then plus, and 70 multiplied by, and it's 40%, so that'll be 40 divided by 100, so that'll be 0.4. All right, so now let me do a little bit of calculation here. So that will be 10 plus 28, which will be 38. All right, so that's basically the weighted sum that we want to calculate. Of course, the 38 here just happened to be an integer. In practice, it could be maybe a floating point number, which we can also handle, right? All right, so that's about the problem we want to solve. And I just want to do a little bit of motivation over here. I want to do something without having to use a loop, and then to see how things will go. And then we'll try to motivate about, in this case, using a loop can really just make things much simpler, right? I just want to teach you from scratch, assuming that you have no background about Java, right? Okay, to really do this, since we know exactly there will be 5 assignments, so we know that exactly we have to prompt the user 5 times for each assignment. And then for each assignment, we're going to prompt them for how many percent is that assignment. And also how many marks out of 100 you actually got for the assignment, right? We're going to do that. Let's now try this, okay, right away. So you can kind of imagine that every prompt for a particular assignment is going to be very similar to other prompts, which means we're going to result in lots of duplications. So you can think about every time if you find that the behavior of your program is really duplicating itself a lot. So that means you may just want to use a loop to really make the things easier for you to code in. Okay, we'll see that. So I just want to give you some overview, first of all. All right, let's now see how we can do it. So system and other print line, okay. So we can say, let's say, just make it a little bit more interesting. Let's say enter your name, okay, over here. And then we can say input string name is assigned to, let's say input dot next line. Okay, just get the user's name, some students, right? And then we can actually use this name over here in the later prompt messages just to make it more friendly app to really use. Okay, and then let me just still make sure you really don't really lose the big picture over here. So here, this is our stage number 1. Prompt user for inputs, right? Since we actually got 5 assignments, which we assume, right, that's already known to us. So this means the app we're building always prompt the user 5 times for the 5 assignments. All right, and then we're gonna say system out the print line. Okay, so now we can say the name could be Jackie, could be Jonathan, could be Jim, could be whoever, and then whoever. So the name over here depends on what's really being read previously. Okay. Okay, let's say what is the weights of your assignment 1? Okay, we know that it's going to be assignment 1, assignment 2, and etc. Right? Assignment 1. What is the weight of your assignment 1? And let's say this one is going to be an integer value because, for example, if there's 20%, we'll let the user enter. We'll expect the user to enter 20. Okay, so we'll say let's say integer weight 1 is assigned to, and then we can say input dot next int. All right, and then we also, not only that, we need to know about the weights, and also need to know about the marks. Okay, I can somehow copy this line over here, and then I can say what is the marks of your assignment 1. Well, if you want to make it a little bit more informative to the user, you can say out of 100 if you wish. All right, and then we can say int marks number 1 will be input dot next int over here. All right, you can see this part over here is really about to get the information from the user about assignment 1 only. All right, and then so now question for you, since we are not done, of course we're only 1/5 done for the for getting the input from the user. So now the question is, how many times do we need to duplicate this block of code? Well, apparently it depends on how many assignments you are expecting, right? You can think about the interaction pattern for every assignment would be just identical. The only thing that would be different is you can think about what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this block of code 5 times, right? Well, this including this time, of course. So 4 other times. And then every time the only thing I need to change will be I want to change from assignment 1 to assignment 2, assignment 1 to assignment 2, and also weight number 1 to weight number 2. And also marks number 1 to marks number 2, and etc. Right? That's basically what I'm going to do. Okay, let me just put a little bit more comments over here. I can say prompt for assignment 1. All right, so that will be the first step for stage number 1. What about second step? All right, this will be second, third, fourth, and fifth. All right, you can see number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. For those of you who know about Java loops already, you might be wondering why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for your fellow students who may not actually have seen any for loops or any iterations before. So this is a very important stage. Before you learn about how to use loops, it's really crucial for you to understand why a loop can be so beneficial. You want to appreciate it's a use case scenario before you can really write it. Right? That's my philosophy. I always want to show you why you want to do it. All right. Let's now do it quickly. So now the point is you got lots of duplicates over here, but let's make sure it works, and then we'll try to refactor that into one that will use loops. Okay. You can see number 1, number 2. Number 1 is already done from previously, right? So number 2, what is the weight for your assignment 2? And also 2 over here. Also, it should be weight number 2 and marks number 2 over here. And also 3 here, 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. And then we're going to get 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, and 4 here. Okay, you just double check to make sure you really, every time you do copy and paste in your programming code, which is very common, you want to make sure you make the adaptations properly, right? You want to double check. All right, just double check one more time. Okay, here which is about assignment number 1. So here is about assignment number 2. So here is about assignment number 3. So here is about assignment number 4, and here is about assignment number 5, right? Okay, so now that's good. You can think about stage number 1. It's definitely much longer than usual compared with our previous console application. That's intentional. So now we will see later why a loop can simplify things so much. All right, so now enter your name. So we stage number 1 is done. So let's now go to stage number 2, which is to calculate. Okay. And to really do it properly, we should really define a utility methods to really do it. However, for the first part for this week, I just want to show you the loop syntax. So let's not worry about it. Okay, but later on for your labs and for your programming test, you never program the logic for calculation in the console application. You just call the utility method in other package, which will do the logic, right? Let me clarify that quickly. Okay, so now do calculation. All right, so now we got basically we got marks number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got weights number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they want to add them up, right? The weighted sum. So let's say what we will do is we can say weighted sum is simply equal to, let's do the simplest way. Okay, so the weighted sum is going to be, since we know even though, for example, even though you can see the weights and also the marks, for example, are simply just integer. But for the weights, it's only the percentage value over here, right? For example, it might be just 20, but we have to calculate the corresponding 0.2 by dividing it by 100, right? That's what we're going to do. Okay, so let me just do it right away. So the weighted sum eventually is going to be a double, right? So weighted sum is simply going to be marks 1 multiplied by weight 1 divided by 100. For example, you can see this might be some marks out of 100, and this might be 20%. 20 divided by 100 will give you 0.2, right? And then we're going to do this for every assignment. We got 5 assignments in total. So this will be number 2. Okay, I just copy it so you can do the same. Plus and paste. And 3. Let me fix the indentation a little bit so you can see everything more clearly. I can simply type enter. So now plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, I gotta fix this as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over here. All right, like that. All right, so that'll be the weighted sum. And then finally, stage number 3. Once we are done with the calculation in the stage number 2, so stage number 3. Remember the 3 stages for console application that we mentioned before. So you want to output result to the console. And let's say we want to have like a breakdown for all the assignments for their calculation. We want to be as informative as possible to the user using your program. So we can say system.out. Let's say this. We're going to say assignment 1. And then we can have some, square brackets over here. And then we can have marks 1. And then how many percent, right? Weight 1. And then plus over here, weight 1. And then we want to have a percentage over here, right? So this will be the marks and also comma and how many percent it is. Okay, and then I'll put it like that. Okay, of course you can adjust your own formats just to make it informative. I'll just give you one example over here. And then what we want to do is we simply, that will be for assignment number 1. Okay, let me put a semicolon over here. And then let me simply just do, you know what, let's not worry about the semicolon. Let's say this will be for assignment number 1. Okay, assignment 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we'll put a weighted sum as a last line. Let's say we got 6 lines of output in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then, oh, notice one thing here. So the weight 1 here should be outside the string literal. I just made a mistake over here, right? Should be like that. All right. Let me just do that quickly. Weight 2 and plus. All right. And then also plus weight 3 and also plus weight 4, and finally we have weight 5. All right, and of course we're gonna print out the weighted sum. Okay, we're gonna say over here, weighted sum over here will be exactly this variable over here, right? That's a calculation result over here. All right, let's now try to run it and see if that works. If I simply run over here, enter your name, let's say Jackie over here. So what's the weight for your assignment number 1? Let's say you got 5%, 10%, 15%, etc. Just make it easy. Okay, 5%. Let's say I didn't do so well. Let's say 34. Okay, assignment 2. Let's say 10%, and then did maybe a little bit better, maybe 41, and then 15%. Let's say maybe it just passed, maybe 51, and then 20%, maybe this time 67, and then assignment number 5, let's say 25%. In that case, I got maybe let's say I got an A, 83. All right. So now this is what's happening over here. You can see assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are the marks over here, right? 34, 41, and etc. And these are the percentage over here. However, the weighted sum is simply just 0.0. All right. So guys, do you know what's wrong over here? Can you guys tell what's wrong? Pause the video and think about it, right? When I first started recording this video here, I found that I made a mistake. That's why I'm re-recording it. And now I can challenge you about the mistake I made. I think it will be a very valuable lesson for you. Okay? Assuming that you paused the video and thought about it, so let me tell you. Okay? The best way to find it out is to use a debugger. All right? So now I'm going to put a breakpoint in the console application. I want to again emphasize the value for a breakpoint. So what I would do is I'm simply just going to put a breakpoint over here. Let's say line 45. So it's right before I try to calculate the weighted sum. Everything before is just about stage number 1, so it cannot go wrong. It's just about reading input from the user. Okay. So what I would do, put the breakpoint over there, and then let's go back there, and then right click on the console application and say debug as Java application. All right. Enter your name over here. Let me just do it again. I may not enter exactly the same number. I didn't memorize them, but similar. 5, let's say 31, 10, 41, 15, 51, 20, 67, and also 25, let's say 89. All right. So now you can see as soon as we are done, we're done up to 42, line 42. So now as soon as we are about to hit 45, about a breakpoint, and then it's going to switch to debug perspective. Let's say switch. All right. So now we are right here. Okay. And remember what's going to happen is as soon as we say step over, it's going to say 0.0 somehow, right? Let's verify that. Let's now look at weighted sum. 0.0. But do you see why? What we need to do is we want to use the debugger to really check. All right. So for example, if I simply just do this one over here, right? Let's just be careful here. If I say marks 1, 31, that's correct. Weight 1, which is also correct. However, if I say weight 1 divided by 100, right? That's exactly what I put over here in the programming code. So I can check. That one is actually 0. So weight 1 is actually 5. So 5% should not be corresponding to 0. It should be 0.05. Agree? All right. So guys, what's wrong? Apparently, I forgot, and maybe you forgot as well, that when we do division over here, for division here, for when both sides are simply just integer, 100 is an integer literal. Weight 1 was also declared to be an integer. You can look up the definition, the declaration for that. When both sides, when both operands for the integer, for the division operator, when both operands are simply integer, it will only give you the integer quotients. So 5 divided by 100 will give you quotient 0 and remainder 5, right? So it wouldn't give you 0.05. So if you want to do it, you can refer back to your lecture from elementary programming. In this case, you may just want to do a cast. For example, you can cast maybe weight 1 to be a double, or you can cast maybe 100 to be a double, right? That's the part of the lecture I want to remind you. Okay. However, I can say this case is very easy to fix. I'll show it to you. But up to now, I show you how you can use debugger to find out the bugs, right? It's really important lesson for you to learn. All right. So now let me stop the debugger over here and then go back to Java perspective. The easiest way is to make one of the operands over here for the division a double, literal. Okay. I can simply put 100.0. Since one of them is simply a literal value, so I can easily add a 0.0. If there's a variable, in that case, you may have to do a cast, right? That's a principle. All right, so now let's do one more time. This time it should be working. If I launch the debugger, launch the console application, and then see, let's say Jackie again. All right, and for the weight for the assignment 1, let's say 10%, and then very poor students, 31, and then 15% for assignment 2, and let's say 45, and then maybe 20%, and then let's say 55, and then 25% for let's say maybe 57, and then finally let's say 20%, let's say 30%, and then we got maybe 89. All right, so now you can see this. If you now try to also use your calculator to verify the result, okay, you can do that yourself. So if you add it up, the weighted sum is going to 61.8, right? It's actually the correct result. All right. So far we actually built a console application over here with so many duplicates about handling the. I can tell you there are 2 occasions of duplication, right? 2 natures of duplication. One is about over here. You can see this part here just identical to this part over here. So that's the first occasion, right? And also when we output, you can see assignment 1 and the pattern over here is also being duplicated 5 times. So now we would like to really try to see if it is possible to only write the code once and then somehow let it repeat itself for a fixed number of times, since we know there are 5 assignments in total. So this justifies exactly why a for loop can be useful in this case. All right, so study this example carefully. We haven't really used a loop just yet, but it's really important, as I explained, to really appreciate why loop can be so useful for us. You want to know what will happen without the loops before you use the loop. Before I do end the current video, I'd like to do some a little bit setup. Okay, I call this grade calculator app 1, so I would like to rename it quickly. Okay. So 1 will be for for loop and 2 will be for while loop. That's true. But now I would like to say 1A and 1B. So 1A will be the motivating example without a for loop, and 1B will be the one improved using for loop. So let me right click on the name of the class, and then I'll say refactor and then rename. Let me call that 1A over here and then say continue. All right, and then starting from the next video, we'll see how to create a version 1B, which is going to improve 1A by using a for loop. And we're going to remove all the duplicates using a for loop.